Welcome to the Covestro Home Office Talks. It's the 6th week in the home office, but I can tell you a virtual studio like this is really easy to clean, so it's not as difficult as it seems. I'm really excited to share with you today's very special guest, the adventurer, the pioneer, the innovator, and living proof that nothing is impossible, Bertrand Piccard. For me, a true hero. I could just talk about, roughly 10 minutes about all the things and all the amazing things he has done and of course is still doing. But let me tell you this. He managed to fly around the world in a solar airplane without a single drop of fuel. And he has founded the Solar Impulse Foundation, which seeks 1,000 efficient solutions that make living on our planet more sustainable. And I think you'll agree with me that never before has the time for such solutions been more relevant than today, for us to get into a green recovery after the pandemic. As you follow our talk, feel free to ask questions inside the live stream chat. Bertrand has promised to answer a few, so we'll get to those at the end of our talk. And with that, I hand over to Bertrand. Bertrand, welcome to my home office. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Nico, and thank you for this invitation from Covestro.
So Bertrand, I know there's a lot you can share with us, but let's start with the situation we are all living with and have to deal with. How are you personally coping with working from home?
There are two ways to deal with this confinement. One is to worry because we are not doing things as usual and we suffer a lot because we want to get out of this confinement as soon as possible. The other way, which I have chosen, and I hope a lot of people have chosen also, is to ask, what can I do now that I couldn't do before? And now I'm having much more time to write articles, to publish in the media, to answer to interviews like yours today, to be much more present, much more available for people who want my advice or my opinion on the crisis, on climate change, on solutions, on new technologies. So finally, I think it's a positive thing. But of course, I also remember all the people who suffer from the sickness, from economic crash, and so on. So it's a difficult time, but we have to do something good with it.
And I think that's a very constructive approach to taking the most of the confinement many of us are in. With the Solar Impulse Foundation, you identify and evaluate profitable and innovative solutions that have a positive impact on the environment. As we are in this special situation, why do you think such innovation is needed now more than ever?
Because in the last 50 years, all the solutions to protect the environment were very expensive. So the only choice we had was to reduce mobility, reduce our growth, reduce our comfort and our lifestyle. And nobody wanted to do that. Today, the technology has gone so much forward that all these solutions are profitable. They protect the environment, but they also create jobs. They also allow profit for the industries who are producing them. And this is not yet understood enough by the key decision makers. So what we are doing at the Solar Impulse Foundation is to identify technologies, processes, devices, materials, products, who can at the same time protect the environment and be a help for the economy and for employment. And fortunately, there are a lot of them. Our goal has been to find 1,000 of them. Today, we already have identified a little more than 450. And we have put the label Solar Impulse Efficient Solution. And with all these solutions, we go to governments, to institutions, to industries, and we say, look, here are the tools that you can use to have much more ambitious environmental and energy policies. These are the tools that also allow an economic recovery at the same time. So there is no way to oppose ecology and economy. Today, thanks to technology, both go hand in hand. And by the way, Covestro has two of these solutions that have been labeled by the Solar Impulse Foundation. One is for developing countries. It's a solar dryer that allows, without additional or external energy, allows the farmers to keep their harvest. It allows them to keep it in good condition and to sell it later in order to avoid the speculation that sometimes is ruining these poor people. And the other one is a textile coating without solvents that allows much better health for the people who produce it and for the people who wear it, also for the environment. So new products for a new economy and for a new world. This is what I like, because with exploration, you always want to do better in the future than you have done in the past.
And Bertrand, these are really good, I think, examples, because also I've seen them myself being on the ground, also in Southeast Asia, with solutions that are both profitable but also extremely environmentally friendly from a societal point of view, but also from the environmental point of view. And of course, the need for such solutions was strong even before Corona. So what do you think now? What can we learn from the current situation to be better equipped for the global challenges still in the future? Because this is Corona, but you know, the world continues to be a volatile place. So what can we learn from this going forward?
I hope we will learn. I hope we will learn to do better than in the past. So when you hear people who want to recover the status quo we had before, it's very dangerous, very, very dangerous, because the world before the coronavirus crisis was unstable, it was fragile, it was unfair with a lot of inequalities, it was polluting, it was changing the climate, and actually it was not a world with a lot of economic growth. It was already on the edge of a recession before the coronavirus crisis. So we need to make a world that is much better. We need to make a world that is safer, that is more fair. And for this, we need to have more inclusivity. We need to include a lot more people into the economic development. We need to create jobs. We need to create wealth. We need to create the implementation of all these new technologies. And this is a way that can change the future completely, because there are today trillions of dollars and euros who are spread over the markets. Do we want to rebuild what we have lost, or do we want to build something better? Of course, we have to build something better. It means that the policies of the governments, if they give money to companies or to some sectors, is to put conditions. You have to be much cleaner. You have to be much more efficient. Imagine, for example, all the jobs you can create if you were to insulate all the buildings in order to make them more energy efficient, to change the heating systems to have heat pumps, to have LED lightings. If you were to make a cleaner and more sustainable textile industry, more sustainable agriculture, all the infrastructure into the industry processes, of course, without even speaking of renewable energy, of course. Yeah. Imagine all this money would be used like this. Can you imagine how much profit and employment would be created? Because we would actually replace all the old, inefficient, polluting systems by modern and efficient ones. And the modern and efficient ones, they pay for themselves. They pay for themselves because of the energy, the resources, the waste that you reduce. You save money. So if you get a loan in a country and you make your infrastructures modern, after 10 years you can give back the money, reimburse the money, and your country is modern, safe, clean, and efficient. If we don't do it now, with the opportunity of the COVID-19 crisis, I don't think we'll ever do it.
And I think, Bertrand, that's a really strong message. I mean, this society has the opportunity to really wake up and use the technologies and solutions which are already there and build a greener recovery, build a greener planet for all of us, which is, as you said, I think very inspiringly providing growth and jobs. So not giving up anything that we have learned to love after the crisis. Last question before we go over to the audience. Last question from my side, Bertrand. What are your tips to survive from the home office? I remember I interviewed you when you were flying in your solar airplane above Arizona. And you were there for quite a long time. So you have some experience from, being isolated. So what are your tips, if you have any, to our watchers?
Yes, my experience is from the balloon flight around the world with Breitling Orbiter 3. That was 20 days in a capsule with a co-pilot. And with Solar Impulse, my longest flight was 3 days and 3 nights, alone in a single-seater cockpit. And of course, it's different if you're alone or with another person. But the importance is not to project yourself into the moment that the confinement will be finished. Because if you count the days or count the hours and say, oh, it's long, or I would like it to be finished, I would like to get out of it, you suffer much more, because time will give the impression to pass much, much slower. You need to live the present moment in connection with yourself, in connection with your body, to feel that you are alive and you feel yourself breathing, moving, speaking, thinking. And like this, there is no time anymore. You just move with the time. And when it's finished, when the confinement is finished, or when you land, you're almost surprised that it is finished so quickly. So this is really something we have to keep in mind during this confinement. Now, the other thing is, if you are with somebody else, learn to communicate with him or her. You need to learn to communicate, because communication is not only saying what you want to say. Communication is not just sharing ideas that can become conflictual. Communication should be express what you feel inside of you. And if you do that, you are not aggressing the other one. It's not a conflict. You are just, for example, with Brian Jones, before the start with Breitling Orbiter balloon, we had a code. If something was really going bad between us, and one was saying, I feel slightly uncomfortable in this situation, that was the moment that the other one said, oh, okay, what happens? Can you explain me? And then we explained, in this situation, I felt offended, or I feel that the smell is bad. You should maybe brush your teeth, or maybe you should not do so much noise when I'm resting, or whatever. But first, you speak about your impression, about what you experience inside of you. And like this, the other one can be open to a change. If you make a criticism to the other one will close himself like an oyster and will not accept to change anything. So there are a few tips like this. I published on LinkedIn 10 tips from an explorer, where you can find more details about the way to live the confinement and make it an adventure. Because this is something I would like to add. If you are in a problem and you refuse the problem, you want to fight against it, you will suffer much more and it will become a crisis. But if you accept the crisis, it becomes an adventure. The adventure with everything that is unknown, the unpredictability, everything you will discover. So accept the crisis, it will be an adventure. But refuse the adventure, it will remain a crisis and it will be much worse.
Thank you, Bertrand. I mean, that's the greatest carpe diem explanation I have heard, and I think we can all learn a lot from that, and really take this as an opportunity to be on an exciting journey and an adventure, and to make the most out of it. And certainly, I feel like that. And of course, taking personal hygiene topics also at home office for the family into consideration. That's also something that definitely we have to take care about. Okay, thank you, Bertrand. Let's go now over to our watchers and see what questions we have received so far. We have a question from Chi Wan Tai, if I spell her or his name right. And the question is, what do you think is the biggest barrier for the first world countries to adopt solar initiatives? And I think solar initiatives, but also other, I think, advanced initiatives, many of them which are also part of the Solar Impulse solutions.
I think the first barrier is the storage. Because it's true that today, solar and wind energy have become cheaper in half of the world than gas, oil, or coal. But we need to store it. And there has been not enough emphasis on the storage systems. So we can store in batteries. We can also use the batteries of the cars. to do it. And then when you have a peak of consumption, you give back the electricity from the electric car to the grid. But we need also systems with hydrogen. We need to be able to involve the oil industry in a profitable way into the energy transition. So if we had huge investment plans on production of hydrogen, we could produce the hydrogen in a clean way, transport it, distribute it, sell it, and use it as a storage. And that would be a way really to avoid this conflict between the oil industry and the promoters of clean technologies.
Thank you, Bertrand. The second question is from Wael Al-Mustafa. How many months or years does the economy need to recover? I think a question that is on all our minds and nobody really knows. But Bertrand, what's your take? How long does it take for us to recover from the situation we are in?
When you look at the United States in 1929 and 1930, the huge depression, what happened? It happened that the president of the United States at that moment established the New Deal. The New Deal was a huge plan of investment to modernize the country. At that time, it was to build bridges, it was to build industry, it was to build factories, and also a lot of things for the army, planes, tanks, trucks, and so on. And that gave a lot of confidence. And I would say after about 5 years, the country had almost recovered. Not every single individual, but most of the country had recovered. Today, if we make the Green Deal, we will recover very fast because the money will be used to build something new that creates more jobs. Because when you do something new, you create more jobs. So you recover much faster. If the money is used to keep what we had before, it will be a disaster, and I think it will take much longer to recover.
Thank you, Bertrand. So from a New Deal to a Green Deal. So that sounds like a very, very good path. So I know you're a very busy guy, so we'll just have one more question. I'm sure there are many, many more. Let's take a question from Takia Matsumoto, who is asking, would the priority of the circular economy in the world change after the COVID-19 crisis? So
I hope the priority will be put on circular economy, because what is the economy we had before? It was extraction, construction, usage, consumption, and then thrown away as waste. So it cannot be sustainable, and you lose so much resources at every step because it's not efficient. Imagine that you use renewable energies to make the industry, that you reuse the waste as a resource or for a second or third life. If you can reconstitute new materials with the waste. We have one solution like that has been labeled at the Solar Impulse Foundation. You take the waste with enzymes, you reduce it to the molecular level, and from there you make new materials. But all this makes much more money because you have an added value everywhere. So the question is not, should we do a circular economy or not? The question is, if we don't do the circular economy, our society, our world will not survive because it will run out of resources and be buried under wastes that nobody knows how to deal with.
And if that doesn't incite us to build a more circular economy and to forget actually the linear economy, I think, I don't know what is. Thank you so much, Bertrand, for taking the time to share your, I know, very, very valuable time with us. I think you give us all inspiration and, of course, hope that a green recovery after Corona is within reach. Thank you for being here. A pleasure having you at our Home Office Talks, Bertrand.
Thank you very much, Nico. And when the confinement will be finished, I would like to make a new visit to the Innovation Center of Covestro in Leverkusen, because I would like to see what are the new solutions that you have now in the pipeline. It was like in a James Bond movie last time I went, with all crazy things, incredible innovations and technologies. And that was a few years ago. I'd like to come back and see what you have now ready for the new world.
There's so much cool stuff coming from Covestro, I can tell you. You're very, very welcome to visit us. Thank you very much, and stay safe and stay healthy, Bertrand.
With pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, and goodbye to all those who are following us, and stay safe and stay ambitious for the future. We have to build a better world. It's our task, it's our responsibility, it's an adventure, so we really have to do it.
So thanks, Bertrand. Thanks for the watchers for tuning in to the Covestro Home Office Talks. And thank you very much for your questions. I mean, we should do more of this because there's so many more questions coming in. With this format, we try to overcome the lockdown challenges we're all facing and still share insights despite being locked at home from true experts across the globe. And my next guest is already also on the calendar. He is Michael Friede. He's a great guy. He leads the Covestro Coatings, Adhesives and Specialties business unit worldwide. And he will have, again, new insights about the effects of Corona, but of course also how to make the best out of it. So tune in next Friday, 2 p.m. Central European Time on this very same channel. Stay safe, stay healthy, and until next time.